ncIMPACT is made possible by funding from Civic Federal Credit Union and is a public media North Carolina production in association with the University of North Carolina School of Government.
If you don't have a computer, you can't be successful in 2020 in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte's internet use per household outpaces the national average.
Yep, drop down menu, okay?
But there's still a divide between the digital haves and have-nots in the city. This is ncIMPACT. I'm Anita Brown-Graham. In the city of Charlotte, there are big differences in broadband access based on race, income, and other demographic factors. Only 75% of African American households and 70% of Latino households have a computer with a broadband internet subscription in Charlotte. This is compared to 92% of white households. Age, income, and education are also indicators of whether you have digital access. Not having broadband access can often limit your ability to prosper and effectively participate in your community. ncIMPACT's David Hurst introduces us to a group of change makers who have come up with a playbook to bridge this urban digital divide.
All right, these are yours.
Thank you.
Pat Millen first learned about the idea of a digital divide when his daughter was in middle school.
Oh, really? It was the first time when my daughter came home and said, you know, every assignment we seem to get at school seems to require a computer, and there's so many kids here that don't have them. How can they possibly be successful if they can't do their homework?
He began researching the topic and found that nationally, 70% of teachers assign homework that requires broadband access, but only 33% of students have access in their home.
Well, I mean, the basic thing remains the case. If you don't have a computer in this society, you can't be successful. If you're a kid and you don't have a computer, you can't do your work at home.
It led him to create E2D, a nonprofit agency that distributes donated laptops to students who need them to do homework.
Soon thereafter, I came down to the principal here at West Charlotte and said, wouldn't it be great if we could open up a computer lab on your campus? And she bolted up out of her chair and she said, follow me. And she ran me to the back side of the campus to where we are right now, and she said, this is your unit, here is your key, build a lab, go forth and prosper.
So what are those? Those are ready to...
In the lab, Millen hires high school students and pays them $15 an hour to refurbish the laptops, often donated by local companies. There are now dozens of students employed across 5 E2D labs in the Charlotte area.
They are becoming the new tech workforce. They're going on to jobs that are going to be really substantial, and in some cases be the first jobs in their family that were more than just minimum wage jobs.
Renessa Gobi is one of E2D's student employees. She's a sophomore at West Charlotte High School and says the program is helping shape her career path.
It lets me know that I enjoy working with computers and working with all the simple problems it has, or the hard problems it has, or repairing them, replacing them, just working with them. I definitely enjoy it.
In the past 6 years, E2D has distributed nearly 12,000 laptops to households across the Charlotte area. The main goal is to give low-income students a fair shot at academic success.
It's like you're helping them and you're giving back, and you can change their life, which is an amazing thing.
And you all named several. So we talked about the cloud drive. What were some examples of the cloud drive?
E2D also provides laptops to the Mecklenburg County Jail.
Right. We're constantly figuring out how to...
Inmates are able to take computer classes, including a week-long digital literacy program. Ryan Stone says he took the class because a lot has changed with technology since he was incarcerated in 2018.
I mean, it's been about 2 years, 2.5 years, since I've got to use a computer, and figure why not better way to brush up than get it in here.
Just wherever your weight is on there, will you be able to distinguish between left and...
After graduating from the course, inmates receive a personal laptop they can use once they're released. Stone says he plans on using the laptop to help his dad run his home remodeling company.
Well, you know, I mean, IT's the future, so, I mean, anything I can do to, you know, improve the skills I already have as far as going into a career like that, like, you know, I mean, technical programming or just anything really computer related, that's where everything's going now.
Let's go ahead and actually look at your handout.
The class is meant to help those who have been in jail to re-enter back into society.
Handout B for the lesson.
Alexandra Arrington, the course's instructor, says many struggle to find work after they get out, often because they lack computer skills to create a resume or to submit job applications online.
There are challenges that they will face that other members of the community may not face, and barriers that they will have to overcome. And then this opportunity, this learning, and having this particular resource in the laptop helps them, if you will, to kind of level the playing field again, and to help them to live life not from a space of them being their worst mistake, but them being able to have a second chance.
You know, maybe we could work it out where
Programs like these were born out of an organization called the Charlotte Digital Inclusion Alliance, also known as CDIA. The CDIA is a collaboration of local organizations, all with the same goal in mind: to reduce Charlotte's digital divide.
So we got a limited agenda today, but I thought
Seth Irvin is the Chief Innovation Officer for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library and a member of the CDIA. He says the Alliance meets on a regular basis, and dozens of programs and solutions have come out of these meetings.
that would have never happened if we hadn't been gathering and talking and having those conversations, building those relationships. And I think it's just learning to trust one another in the work that we do. We're able to lean in on those things. And I think really it's about creating an environment for collaboration so that we can have that community impact that we desire.
The CDIA came together in 2015, a little after Google Fiber announced they were considering bringing fiber optic to Charlotte. The announcement generated some conversations about the state of broadband in Charlotte, and the issue of the digital divide came to light.
What's eye-opening is when someone comes in, doesn't know the basics of a computer, doesn't know a keyboard, doesn't know how to operate a mouse. It's those kinds of things. And in 2020, how is that person getting by? It's really impactful to me is the idea that the Food Lion application to work at Food Lion is no longer in paper form. If you want to work for Food Lion, you have to go through a complex process of applying, and it's really, really hard and complex for someone who's a digital native. So how does that work for somebody who isn't? And so how do we, if we're looking for an equity piece, if we're looking to be a civil society, how do we make sure that people, no matter where they're on the spectrum, can participate? That's really why we do this work.
Through the CDIA, organizations like E2D are now partnering with other agencies. They're sharing resources and services as a collective force in changing the broadband landscape in their community.
This is the one time and the one moment where I feel like Charlotte has an opportunity to raise everyone up exponentially. Not everyone's going to go and, join the Charlotte Country Club, but everyone could have a good job. Everyone can eat well and get a good education. But it's only if Charlotte shows the will to get it done, and I think now's the time.
The goal of the Charlotte Digital Inclusion Alliance is to reduce the digital divide by at least 10% by 2026. ncIMPACT host Anita Brown-Graham sat down with Bruce Clark to figure out how they plan on doing this.
The ncIMPACT show is all about community collaboratives that bring people together across sectors to work on big community challenges. Why was digital inclusion such a big issue for Charlotte?
I definitely think it's a big issue for Charlotte and for any other place really in the globe right now as we think about the proliferation of technology, access to the internet, and the way that drives everything that we do as humans today.
And yet, if I can stop you for a second, people would look at the aggregate numbers and say Charlotte's internet adoption is 81%, which is higher than the national average. What's the problem for Charlotte?
Well, that still means that there's 19% of our population that isn't connected using those figures, and we know that not all of the data that we see is accurate. So on the ground, when we're in communities, we can see that number in specific parts of Charlotte soar to up to 40% of the families in a community not having access to our modern society, economy, and democracy. And I think for those of us who care about community and care about our future, especially one that requires access to technology to thrive, leaving behind 19% of our population is completely unacceptable.
As you are moving around Charlotte, is the issue primarily access to hardware? Is it the affordability of the service? What are the real barriers?
So there's the data view of what the data tells us, and that typically tends to come across as cost as the number one barrier. But I think when we get into community, there's three things that we really see across the board. One is obviously cost. You have to be able to afford internet access, and we like to say in Charlotte that having internet access in the home is the key point. There are places that you can go access internet in the public, which is a part of the process, but having it in your home where people like you and I and others who are used to this take it for granted, right? And
Kids shouldn't have to go to the public library to do their homework.
Right, they shouldn't have to buy a Coca-Cola at a restaurant to be able to do their homework. They should be able to do it in the comfort of their home. They should also have access to affordable technology, laptops in this case. We think about, a lot of people say, well, a phone, I can do all these things on my phone. I would challenge anyone to go back to middle school and complete all their homework on a smartphone. They'd be pulling their hair out. And then the third piece is the skills, right? So I have the internet access, I have the computer, now I need the skills to be able to become a creator of information. And my example of that is you have to be able to tell your own story. Especially in communities that are underserved and underrepresented, so often their stories are told about them. But when you empower somebody with these tools to tell their own story, it changes the dynamic in the way they view the world. It puts the power in their hands. And that's what we lack when we think about having 19% of our community not be able to tell their own story, not be able to support their child's education by checking in on their grades, checking in on their attendance because it costs too much money to have home internet and they can't get on the app because that's mobile data minutes as well, right? All these things add up for families at the margins in our community. This is why I'm personally passionate about supporting the work to bridge the digital divide.
For the past 11 years, Julia McLean has been coming to the Stratford Richardson YMCA. Most of the time she comes to walk around the track, but recently she decided to try something new and take a computer class.
I wasn't computer savvy. I could get in, but that was about it. But after the class, I'm able to fumble around a little bit, I can find my way better. It's not bad either.
McLean says this new knowledge has given her a new hobby, online shopping.
I learned how to find my specialty hats. I learned to do that. And now I can, just fumble around recipes and other little things that I like. I can find it now.
The 6-week digital literacy class shows older adults how to work a computer and smartphone and how to safely browse the internet.
The time that each teacher can spend with each other, each one of us that, we got a question that need to show us something, they're Johnny on the spot. So I like that.
A lot of the class is geared towards helping seniors find and make sense of online health information.
You get a lot of information I didn't know, because my brother, he's on the dialysis. So I went in there and found a lot of information about dialysis that I did not know.
Virginia Greer says she's always had some trust issues with using technology, but she says the class's instructor took the time to show her how to make sure a website is reliable.
Some people, they don't have patience with us older adults, and they want to rush you and think we should, catch on like the younger people. But we don't catch on like the younger people. It's going to take some time.
The WISE digital literacy classes began in 2018 after they wanted to narrow the digital divide for their active older adults.
Some of our seniors didn't know how to cut on the computer. But then after 6 weeks, I see our seniors sitting in the lobby in a group, and they're all looking at, recipes and different things online, right? So one thing that I said when I came into Stratford Richardson is I wanted our seniors to learn something in the program. We didn't want this to be a babysitting service. We wanted them to actually learn something and allow our seniors to be continuous learners. It actually brought families closer together. Some of their families have moved away. They're not able to see their grandchildren. Now I see our seniors on FaceTime talking to their grandchildren, right? So not only are they finding health information, but now they also be able to strengthen their family dynamics.
Thank you.
Those lacking computer and internet skills can also find help through the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library System. The library offers a wide array of digital literacy classes ranging from computer basics to Microsoft Office, even coding.
It's exposing people to these different technologies that are out there. I think there's often a general fear or resistance to something you don't understand. So once people have that, that time and space to look at technology in a way that's not intimidating, you have a staff member there to help you, they start to develop the confidence to explore this on their own and develop the skills to learn new technologies themselves. And I think that's really important, whether it's your career or your personal life, having that power to determine what technology is going to help you in your life and help you advance.
Teacher in the class, pretty helpful.
Very helpful,
Yeah.
very.
For Julia McLean, she hopes to advance her computer skills with another class. She hopes soon she can learn how to move from browsing to buying her specialty hats.
No, I just want to be able to do what I want to do and, not to have, come do this, come show me this, or come order this. I'll be able to do it myself.
Charlotte is not the only urban area in North Carolina facing this issue. ncIMPACT host Anita Brown-Graham sat down with Amy Huffman with the state's Broadband Infrastructure Office to figure out what's being done at the statewide level to reduce the digital divide.
Amy, all across North Carolina, people are saying we have a broadband problem. What does that mean?
Well, first of all, it affects the whole state. It affects both rural and urban areas. And second of all, when we talk about broadband, we talk about it as if it were two sides of the same coin. You have the access to the technology itself, so the pipes and wires, whether a household has access to that or not. And then you have adoption, whether or not a household subscribes to the internet.
So my guess is that everyone can understand the rural broadband problem, but how can we have a problem in urban North Carolina?
Well, in North Carolina, about 500,000 North Carolinians don't have access to broadband, and most of those North Carolinians are in rural areas, so there is a problem there. But in urban areas, and actually across the entire state, 40% of North Carolina households don't subscribe to the internet, either because it's too expensive or they don't see how it impacts their daily lives.
So these are people who have access, but choose not to
Some of them
subscribe.
may. Some of them may. Some of them may not have access at all. But they also may not have the skills or the technologies that they need to use the internet. For instance, 18.5% or a fifth of North Carolinian households don't have access to a meaningful device. They either just have a smartphone or they don't have any device at all. And so they can't do homework or work on these or on nothing, and so they don't subscribe to the internet.
The problem is dire. How do we fix it?
There are many solutions, but first of all, we're a big believer in partnerships. We believe that we have to work together and that there's going to be a need for many different people across many different industries, commerce, economic development, healthcare, education, to work together to come together and fix this problem.
How optimistic are you that we're going to resolve this problem in the next 5 years?
I think there's a real opportunity for us if we really dedicate time, resources, and energy to this problem now. If we could close the digital divide within 5 years. However, if we don't, then the situation could be dire.
Digital Charlotte recognizes that digital inclusion plays a pivotal role in our society, economy, and democracy. See how you can deliver inclusion resources to your own community. Visit unctv.org/ncIMPACT for more information. Coming up on ncIMPACT.
But we're actually now able to get students into these new facilities and say, like, this is not the industry that your grandpa worked in. This is a totally new industry.
Recruit them while they're young. ncIMPACT looks at an innovative program in Burke County that helps mold the future workforce by helping young people identify their interests early on.
ncIMPACT is made possible by funding from Civic Federal Credit Union and is a public media North Carolina production in association with the University of North Carolina School of Government.